She dedicated her life to saving the lives of others. Then she was found dead at her home. The case took so many twists, including a weeks-long manhunt that ended in Mexico. And that's just scratching the surface. I'm Elizabeth Millner with Law&Crime. It's a horrific case that first began near San Diego, California. Fire Captain Yolanda Marodi was found dead with multiple stab wounds. Now, police have a suspect in mind. It's Rebecca's wife, Yolanda. Like many of the cases we cover, it started with a call to 911, and this call came in on February 17th. Yolanda Marodi reported that her daughter had been stabbed at her home in Ramona, California. From the police report, it was a horrific scene. Rebecca had cuts and stab wounds around her neck, on her chest, on her stomach. Paramedics tried to save her, but she died from her injuries. Police noted in their report while paramedics tried to save her, one of them recognized her. Rebecca is the CAL FIRE captain from the Riverside County CAL FIRE station. So just weeks before her death, her agency was already in another battle, specifically the Eaton fire that plagued Los Angeles in January. Rebecca's mom stayed on scene and spoke with detectives. During her police interview, she mentioned her daughter was married to a woman named Yolanda. And she mentioned a big clue. Rebecca told Yolanda she wanted to end their marriage. And that conversation happened just a week before Rebecca was found stabbed at her home. So you can imagine, obviously, investigators are going to want to talk to her. Problem is, Yolanda, who her mother-in-law described as someone who usually stayed at home, was missing. Rebecca's mom seemed to have pointed police in the right direction, though. She told them they have ring camera surveillance at home, and that seemingly helped investigators piece everything together fairly quickly. A day after Rebecca was found stabbed in their home, ring camera video showed something awful. According to police, on the 17th, a little after 8 p.m., a woman police believed to be Rebecca was seen running across the patio camera with someone chasing behind her. The person doing the chasing, according to police, is believed to be Yolanda. The woman's voice, believed to be Rebecca, is heard yelling, "Yolanda, please, I don't want to die." Rebecca then reappears on the video with what appeared to be blood on her back. After Rebecca uttered that statement, Yolanda allegedly responded saying, "You should have thought about that before." Yolanda was allegedly seen with a knife in her right hand, blood on her arms, and then Yolanda allegedly told Rebecca to go inside. Rebecca pleaded with Yolanda to call 911. They both entered the home, but about 30 minutes before Rebecca's mom called 911, Yolanda is seen gathering their pets, other items, including luggage, and loading it into her SUV. Police noted she changed her clothes by this time and left the home shortly before 8:30 p.m. that night. And then the 911 call came in at 8:58 p.m. By 9:15 p.m. that evening, the Department of Homeland Security logged Yolanda's car as entering Mexico. Just a couple days after fleeing the country, a friend of Yolanda's contacted investigators after she got a text from Yolanda. So the text was sent on the 18th, a day after Rebecca was stabbed to death. According to police, it said, "Becky came home and told me she was leaving me. She met someone else. All the messages were lies. We had a big fight and I hurt her. I'm sorry." It's unclear who she sent that text to, but it seemingly confirmed Rebecca's mom's story too. So again, by this time Yolanda's in Mexico. It's unclear who she was staying with, if anyone, or what really went on during the time that she was there. But then a shocking article by the LA Times added a whole nother layer to this already shocking case. And that's Yolanda previously served time in prison killing her ex-husband. How? By stabbing him to death too. According to the report, in 2004, Yolanda was sentenced to 11 years in prison after she pled guilty to voluntary manslaughter. And she was in prison from 2004 until 2013. Rebecca and Yolanda were married for about 2 years before Rebecca's murder, so it's unclear if she was aware of Yolanda's past. So now it's been a month since Yolanda took off. Then a huge break in the case. Yolanda was arrested this past Saturday at a hotel in Mexicali, which is a little more than 3 hours from Ramona, California, if you're going by car. And it doesn't look like there will be a whole extradition process. Mexican state security agents transferred her to U.S. Marshals, and Yolanda is already back in the States. Police say the investigation is still ongoing, but Yolanda remains in custody, held on no bail for seemingly obvious reasons. I'm joined now by retired FBI agent Colin Schmidt. Colin, thank you so much for joining me today. The search for Yolanda Marodi is over. What's your reaction to her being found in Mexico?
Well, it looks like she probably took off just in a fit of emotional reaction to the murder. It looks like a pretty much an open and shut case, and then it's very apparent that the Mexican authorities cooperated with the U.S. Marshal Service and were able to bring her to justice rather quickly because it was only approximately a month before they found her.
Yeah, and in your opinion, do you think, because I'm sure for investigators a month is a long time, but in your opinion, is a month a long time to be on the run, given, it seems in a way that she was found kind of quickly, but in your opinion, was it quickly?
It was because Mexico was involved, because once you put that level of complexity into it, then the U.S. Marshal Service has to interact with the Mexican authorities. It's not just as simple as driving down there and having a chat. They have to go through the State Department. There is some process along that goes along with it, and we don't know how long she was in custody of the Mexican authorities. They may have caught her a week after, and it just took this long in terms of the process to get her back.
And do you think that she might have had any help? I know you had mentioned that it just kind of seemed like she kind of just got all her stuff packed up and just kind of ran off in a hurry. But do you think that she may have had any help along the way, or do you think she kind of did this all on her own?
It appears she just did it on her own because of the type of crime it was. She looks like she just packed up and started heading south. And she may have a relative or a family member or an associate in Mexico. But I'm sure that once the Marshal Service got the ticket or the case, they were able to track her using her phone and get her in custody, like I said, rather quickly compared to some of these other violent crime cases in which people go into Mexico.
And at the time, she was just wanted on suspicion of murder. But, given that she had fled to Mexico, in your opinion, does that just kind of show conscious of guilt?
It does, yeah. I mean, if there was no crime committed, then why didn't she just stay or report it herself to the authorities? But in reviewing some of the media attention to this, there was a Ring camera recording apparently of the two of them having a violent confrontation. So it's very clear that it's an open and shut case, and I'm sure once the investigators sit in front of her, she's probably going to lay the whole thing out and tell them exactly what happened.
And, given that this investigation did span from Ramona, California, all the way to Mexicali, what all goes into an investigation like this, especially when someone flees to another country, in this case in Mexico? Detectives say Homeland Security logged her car entering Mexico on the same night of the stabbing. Then where do investigators kind of go from there? Are they kind of just kind of piecing everything together as they go along, or is it just more important to kind of find the suspect that they're looking for? Talk to me about like the investigation and what all goes into it in a case like this.
Well, it appears that the San Diego detectives kind of pinged her or reached out because they have a very close working relationship with Homeland Security as far as the border. They knew what car she was driving based upon California registration. They saw that it was pinged at the border. And then I think at that point, they likely reached out to the U.S. Marshal Service, which they also have a very close working relationship with. And these are the guys and the gals who specialize in this type of work, bringing fugitives to justice. And at that point, they likely turned it over or worked with them and had the phone and pinged it, so to speak, and saw the phone go over the border. And then at that point, the Marshal Service will get the State Department involved and the embassy to make sure they know what's going on, and then as well as reach out to the Mexican authorities. And now, in light of the new administration, it appears the Mexican authorities are being a lot more cooperative with American law enforcement. So I think we're going to see a lot more of these in which people flee to Mexico and they're brought back rather quickly.
Yeah, and it did feel like once she was arrested and apprehended, the turnover back to the United States, there was no fighting extradition along in this process. But what's your reaction to the possible motive of why Yolanda may have allegedly done this? That Yolanda was just upset that her wife Rebecca was planning to leave her?
Well, 2 points. There's not going to be an extradition in this case. Basically, it's an expulsion because it doesn't appear she's a Mexican citizen. And that's another reason why she's going to be sent back so quickly, because she's not a Mexican citizen and doesn't have a right to stay in Mexico. And in terms of the motive from the media, apparently the victim told her that she was going to break up with her or divorce her a couple of days prior. And then on the Ring camera, the assailant, you could hear her saying, "You should have rethought what you said." So it was very, aggressive, and it was, frankly, the victim likely pled for her life, and that was not captured on the Ring camera. So it was just a terrible crime all around.
Yeah, just horrible, especially just kind of reading the arrest affidavit that talked about the stab wounds where they were in Rebecca's body. It's just a horrible, horrible way to die, just this case overall. And I think also one of the biggest revelations while Yolanda was on the run was that she actually spent time in prison for stabbing her then husband to death. What's your reaction to that, especially given what happened to Rebecca in this case?
Well, two things. Number one, she only did 13 years for killing another human being. I don't know the details of that case or if there was anything that mitigated her time, but still, she took another person's life and she only did 13 years. And the second thing is the person she's with, she had to have known about her violent past, and a human being's past is the best predictor of future behavior. So the fact that she was in prison for stabbing her husband at the time, and then this occurred, it's not surprising that frankly it went down like this.
And it's interesting you say that because, to me, I'm kind of reading through this. I was always kind of wondering the same thing, whether or not Rebecca knew of Yolanda's past, because I know some people feel comfortable doing, background checks on people that they're dating or getting to know, that type of thing. But they were only married for about 2 years. So just knowing how long that they were together for, do you think it's possible that there's also a scenario where Yolanda may have just pulled the wool over Rebecca's head and maybe Rebecca just didn't know?
It's possible. I don't know what the fire department's rules are. For example, in the FBI, if you have a roommate, there's a roommate background check immediately. When somebody gets a roommate, you have to disclose that for obvious reasons. So I don't know if there's any rules like that with the fire department. And then the flip side, yes, exactly. There might have been she might not have revealed herself, or because of their emotional attachment, the victim didn't think it was appropriate to kind of look into her background.
Yeah, and it's just horrible too, because maybe if it was just one quick search that she would have seen, not to negate anything that had happened to her, not that this is her fault at all, but I am just very curious whether or not Rebecca knew about Yolanda's past or whether Yolanda disclosed it to her wife at that time. But, talking about Rebecca, she was a decorated fire captain, and it seemed like she was loved and adored by her colleagues, her friends, and then even just weeks before her death, she was actually fighting the fires down in California, and then this happened. What's your reaction to just the turn of events that had happened to just somebody who seemed so loved and adored and who even risked their lives at points during their career to save others? What's your reaction just overall?
Well, she was a decorated fire captain, member of the fire department. She'd been fighting fires for, I think, over 10, 15 years. She was at the Eaton fire, which was absolutely horrible, and she was on literally the front lines, trying to save property and people. So it's a tremendous loss to the firefighting community as well as the public safety community, and it's frankly unnecessary to see a violent crime like this. Just it makes me shake my head because it goes back to the point that she only did 13 years for the first murder, and now she's out, and unfortunately this happened again.
Yeah, and it's just terrible too because sometimes when we see domestic violence cases or cases involving partner on partner type of crimes, and this I'm saying allegedly, that it's just so hard to kind of imagine that something like this were to happen. When someone just wants to leave, just let them leave. But in some cases it doesn't always work out that way. Rebecca's friends told local news outlets that Yolanda was pretty controlling of her wife. Even when we talk about motive, it doesn't appear that we were talking about it, that Yolanda wanted her wife to leave. Given the controlling nature of their relationship, Rebecca allegedly saying, "Yolanda, please, I don't want to die on the Ring camera" video, and even Yolanda spending time previously in prison. Do you think this case is going to go to trial, or do you think that this will end in a plea deal?
I doubt it. It also depends on how the prosecutors charge it. So if there's no death penalty per se in California anymore, so if it'll obviously look like they'll charge life in prison. So the assailant may not have anything to lose by going to trial, other than that all the dirty laundry, so to speak, is going to be aired. So something like this, it's speculation to see because somebody really doesn't have anything to lose by going to trial. I doubt they're going to go to trial because the evidence, frankly, is so overwhelming, and then all the evidence of domestic violence is going to come in as well. So I think this is going to be wrapped up rather quickly.
And it'll be interesting to see where the case goes from here. Colin Schmidt, I want to thank you so much for being on with me today. I really appreciate your insight into a case like this. Before we wrap up, though, I know we were saying that we don't know where the case will go from here, whether it'll be plea deal or trial, but where do you think, or what do you think will happen next?
Well, the next step is she's going to be arraigned. She's going to go in court down there in San Diego. She's likely not going to get bond. She'll sit in jail until the trial date, and then she'll plea out, or they'll go ahead and have a trial. And the last thing I'll leave your viewers with is basically see something, say something. We see this level of domestic violence. It does lead to this level. It can lead to this level of chaos. So if there's something there, definitely people need to speak out so we can prevent this from happening again.
Exactly. Colin, again, thank you so much for your time and your insight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.